Yeah, and it all rests on the myths that we are told. And the antidote is the truth. And that's why what we are doing, Alex, you and I, and so many of our buddies, is so important. We've got to explode those myths, because it's upon those myths, like 9/11, that all the evil actions get carried out and excused off and justified. There are a lot of these truths that we need to expose, not just 9/11. For example, I'd like to expose all the myths that we've been told about the murders of our soldiers in the field, especially the women. Most of them are women. I think families have a right to know what really happened to soldiers like Pat Tillman and Lavina Johnson. Now, most of the viewers know who Pat Tillman is, football star turned war hero turned conscientious objector, which the Army said was killed in action. Then they said, well, it was really friendly fire. But there is a lot of evidence that so-called friendly fire came from less than 10 feet, and he was really fragged because he was turning against the war, and that would be embarrassing to the establishment.
Well, the Army's own internal reports that have finally been brought out, and I've actually talked to the family, was that they shot him. He hid behind a rock, and he said, hey, I'm Pat Tillman. What's your problem? And they walked right up and did him. Yep. And my God, those soldiers followed that order. I guess by probably the CIA in the field, because Pat was. Pat was sending letters home saying, "I'm going to come home and speak out against this fraud regarding the opium."
Yeah,
I even heard BBC admit about a month ago on XM that, oh yes, the U.S. troops are guarding the opium and letting the farmers sell it so the Taliban doesn't get a foothold. The Taliban runs those fields, and now there's heroin all over the streets. It was on local news last night that everybody's on heroin now in Austin. I mean, the government openly ships it in. They'll openly kill Pat Tillman. But now, see, that's patriotic. Oh, we have to kill Pat. It's for America. Yeah. We've got to ship heroin in for the kids, Bob.
Yeah. Well, but I bet you most of the people out there never even heard of Lavina Johnson.
Now, tell folks about her.
Well, Lavina Johnson was a young American girl, African-American, lovely, Christian, virgin. She volunteered to fight in Iraq. Her body was found in a Halliburton tent. Her body was shipped home. Her parents, in a closed casket, her parents told not to open the casket. Well, her father was a physician, still is, and I've talked to him personally. He opened the casket and he examined his daughter. Her brains had been blown out. There were bruises all over her body. Her hands were badly burned, too badly burned to hold a gun, for example. And her genitals had acid poured on them in an apparent attempt to destroy DNA evidence. The Army ruled it a suicide. A government that honors the truth must seek out the truth and then tell the truth. And by God, we have to demand that.
Well, that's what I was going to point out, is that once you give in to evil, it's all over. Sky's the limit. I mean, and these psychological warfare chiefs, they cold-bloodedly knew when they had Rumsfeld come out and go, we're taking off the gloves, we're doing it for America. This was a seduction of evil. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as you say torture's okay, then the Washington Post had an article going, yeah, we're doing stuff to their kids in front of them. And then when Khalid Sheikh Mohammed confessed to everything but killing Kennedy and sinking the Lusitania and bombing buildings that weren't built till 4 years after he was incarcerated, and they were waterboarding him multiple times a week for years, it turned out that was all staged. Some of the torturers of some of the detainees said, well, we were ordered to. Here's our national security letter. They arrested the torturers and used the Patriot Act to gag them. That was in the news. So the issue here is even the torturers will be sold out. Why do all of these people, for money printed up out of nothing by the private banks, sell their entire souls, and then it becomes unpatriotic when they're killing all these Marine Corps and Army investigators in corruption, and they're killing all these officers and all this corruption is set in, and then now the C-130s are collapsing with buckets to use the bathroom in, but the officers have new jets with like pleasure palaces in them with secretaries. I mean, this is like Rome burning and Nero's guzzling wine up on the parapet. I mean, this is disintegration level.
It is. For the last 30 years, I've been quoting scripture. Psalm 33, a king is not saved by his mighty army, warrior is not saved by his great strength. The war horse is a vain hope for victory, in its might it cannot save. Psalm 37 gives the prescription for national security. It says, trust in the Lord and do good, that you may dwell in the land and have security. By accepting the evil, we are destroying this country and its security.
And it's incredible. It's like the New World Order really are like alchemists or magicians. They got a spell on the people of darkness. They're obsessed with petty issues. They can't tell good from bad. They accept the evil, not knowing it destroys the whole system.
Or not care. I mean, let's face it, these people that we're talking about who are guilty of this evil are motivated by greed and power. Money and power. And it doesn't matter whether you say, oh, they want a fascist New World Order or they want a communist New World Order. It doesn't matter. What they want is the money and power. And we have to take it away from them. We have to separate big money from political power in this country. And that's not easy to do, but we have to do it.
All right.
We have to have a government which is not bought and paid for by those big money interests.
Bob, got a break. This is amazing stuff. We'll be right back with more of Bob Bowman. We got Reverend Ted Pike coming up in about 20 minutes in the middle of the next segment. Or the segment after next. 15 after will be with us. Bob Bowman, it's just wonderful having you here. It's great to have you here in town with us. And I'm making another Obama film, and I thought about having you in that and just thought, oh, he's busy and I'm busy, and I kind of rushed that out. That film had 5 interviews. This one's got 10. This will be the 11th. And I'm doing one more. This film is just jam-packed, and it's just perfect to have you, and you've now agreed that you want to be in the film, so you're going to be in the next Obama film. I haven't released the name yet, but that will be out in October, folks. We're taking our time on this. I was going to release it quickly, but I'm taking my time. But we're going to talk about Obama now coming up in his list of betrayals. And again, we're not attacking Obama in a left-right paradigm. We're attacking to show he's a deceiver, a betrayer. And Bob was privately saying if he does buck them, they'll destroy him like they've done others. But before we go there, tell folks about your speaking tour.
Well, I've had a couple of events so far, and there are dozens to come. We're covering the eastern half of the country this summer in 4.5 months. We're not trying to do the whole country this year like we have the last few. Speaking in Austin tonight at Brave New Books at 7 o'clock. On the 11th, we're speaking in the Dallas area. We're going from there to Oklahoma City and then Tulsa and up to Kansas City and on. And people can check the website, thepatriots.us, and find out where we're going to be when. And people can call me on my cell phone, for goodness sakes. I have it with me. They can call the organizers. The organizers are listed in a document that's been sent around to all.
So thepatriots.us.
Yeah.
And you're going to be speaking at Brave New Books down at the end of Guadalupe, off the drag. Great bookstore, great place down there this evening. So folks, be sure and get there early. So it's got room for about 150 folks, and it's pretty much always standing room only if you get there late. But regardless, it's a great event and great folks down there at Brave New Books. Now, Bob, this is a short segment. We're almost out of time here today, and I've got some sponsors I need to thank here for just a moment, but then we're going to come back to you in just a second.